Hello. I want to thank you for your time in listening to this presentation of the revised Academic Content Standards for Science. I am Adrienne Carr, Science Consultant at the Ohio Department of Education in the Office of Curriculum and Instruction. Please make sure you have in hand a copy of the PDF documents from the ODE website so that you'll be able to reference the document pages as we go through this presentation together. One thing we want to make clear is that what will be presented and what you will review are proposed revisions. They are drafts subject to change. So please do not use the information from this presentation or the drafts of the revised standards to make any decisions regarding curriculum or materials. Ohio standards are being revised to assure that they are aligned with both national and international standards, to make them more accessible and manageable for you, and thusly to further support the continued improvement of teaching and learning of science here in Ohio. Note that these revised standards will be web-based rather than printed documents. And because these materials will be web-based, you will be able to download the content standards most relevant to you as you plan instruction. Phase 1 of the revision process only addresses the core content standards and is scheduled for adoption June 2010. The next step of this revision process is Phase 2, during which the model curriculum, which supports the content in Phase 1, will be completed. Phase 2 is scheduled for adoption March 2011. It is at that time that the ODE's Office of Assessment will begin the development process for creating assessments aligned with learning expectations piece in the model curriculum, which will be the focus and development of Phase 2. During the past 18 months, ODE has been engaged in the beginning stages of this revision process. This included reviewing feedback about 2002 standards documents, considering how the results from international testing programs could impact recommendations for changes, and considering the national and state work which informed what contributes to improved student performance. Also included in these beginning stages has been the collaboration of science faculty, education stakeholders, and other education professionals. The preliminary feedback from the field indicated that we needed to reframe the content, provide clearer content connections and learning progressions, and reinforce the scientific inquiry learning cycle connection to core content by integrating into the content standards the 3 process standards, thereby emphasizing that they cannot be taught without science content. The results from the international research on science content standards can be found in the first Lens of International Benchmarking report found on the ODE website. State and national work informed how we revised our standards relative to the guiding question, what elements and standards provide the support needed for high student performance in science? Let's now move on to review the proposed organization of our new science standards documents. There's a hierarchy consisting of 4 levels. Strands are the science content areas, earth and space science, physical science, and life science. Themes are the overarching ideas which connect the strands and the topics within the grades. They are to illustrate a progression of increasing complexity from grade to grade. The topics are the main focus for each strand within a particular grade and for a particular strand. They are the foundations for specific content statements. Content statements specify the science content to be learned and clarify the topics by providing more detail. Also incorporated is a connections piece for each grade. These are the overarching ideas that connect strands and topics within each strand for each grade. These connections are to illustrate the integration of the content statements. New to the standards are the topics at a glance and topics at a glance expanded. They have been designed to illustrate vertical and horizontal integrations, thereby reflecting an increasing complexity within a content area, as well as more coherence across content areas. Now let's look at the topics at a glance for pre-K through 8. It provides a snapshot of content by grade for each content area. Notice the themes. They are the unifying idea within a grade band. The first theme, Observations of the Environment, covers grades pre-K through 2. Now referring to the documents you printed, you'll see the second theme, Interactions within Systems, which is for grades 3 to 5, and for grades 6 to 8, the theme is Order and Organization. Topics at a Glance Expanded is the document that gives more relative information to the Topics at a Glance document. Here is an example of the Topics at a Glance Expanded for middle school. Notice the connections piece found in the top of each grade section. The connections piece is to point to a connection across each of the overarching themes from each strand so that the integration of the content topic statements can be instructed with greater ease or smoother transition from one content area to another. In addition, the Topics at a Glance Expanded is to provide a glimpse of the intended learning progressions. That said, students will need to be able to use what has been learned in earlier grades to be equipped to address more complex problems in later grades. These problems may not necessarily be related to the same content area, but may be integrated in the science content needed to further develop a particular concept in a different content area. For example, students learn about physical properties very early in the physical science strand, but then will apply that knowledge when understanding the properties of rocks and the processes of rock formation in later grades for the Earth and Space Science strand. Now let's consider a grade-by-grade document. Because of the detail here, you may need to refer to your printed documents. This document details the content students will learn in a specific grade. This shows the strands, themes, topics and content statements, as well as content descriptions for a single grade. Similar to this first grade document, each grade for pre-K through 8 has a similar looking page that contains all the content statements expected to be taught under a specific topic. The content descriptions are to provide content limits when portions of the content can be expected to span several grades. We currently envision that each grade-by-grade document will be able to be printed on no more than 2 pages. Our ultimate vision for the future is how multiple disciplines and skills can be integrated for the 21st century learner. Now for high school. Although these are not the only courses to be offered at the high school level, ODE will provide syllabi for physical science, biology, physical geology, chemistry, physics, and environmental science. Because of the requirements of the Ohio Core, the syllabi for the entry-level courses in physical science and biology will be more detailed. These 2 syllabi will provide more guidance with content limits and instructional strategies than the other syllabi. Now that you've seen the basic framework of the revised standards, you are invited to provide us with your feedback, which will be essential to the remainder of the revision process. Please take a look at all the materials found on the ODE website: the international benchmarking materials, the overview, the pre-K through 8th grade, and the high school syllabi. Between now and the end of December, consider joining a discussion focus group to provide us with your constructive observations, thereby helping us in making further revisions. Directions for forming and conducting these groups are at the Ohio Department of Education website and found in the toolkit. And because this might be an opportunity for professional development, we've also provided this video and the associated PowerPoint slides. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to receiving feedback from your groups.